Okay, guys, thank you so much and welcome. This is Stephan Piscano with listedby.com and the Real Estate Networking Group, and we have got a pretty special event for you guys today. I think it goes without saying that my special guest that I'm going to be joined with today is probably going to make this the hippest webinar that we've ever been a part of here. And I think that you'll all find as well, this will probably be one of the more inspiring webinars that we've done as well, because in a moment I'm going to be joined by Jessica Graf, who many of you know from the hit show Big Brother on CBS. And she's also recently been on Bold and the Beautiful as well. So with Jessica joining us today, I wanted to really focus on kind of empowerment and a lot of things that we talk about with the Real Estate Networking Group, and a lot of you that have been on the webinars that we do know, our mission statement here is really about creating self-aware investors and empowering entrepreneurs to be able to really go against the grain and really be able to know what you want for yourself, be able to have a dedicated pathway to get there, and then when things from the outside world stand in your path that can sometimes derail from that plan, be able to stay the course and really stand up for what you believe in. And those of you that watch Jessica this season on Big Brother know that she is the epitome of that, and I think a pretty special person. So I think we're going to learn a lot from her today. We're going to have some fun, and we'll take some questions as well. So without further ado, Jessica, thank you for joining me today.
That was such a great intro. I loved it.
I try.
I'm so flattered.
Jessica, I know you've been doing a lot of these interviews, and a lot of my members in my network maybe didn't see you on Big Brother. But so talk to me if you can. I'd like to start from talking a little bit about what led you to want to try out for the show in the first place. And again, for those that don't know, you basically, when you commit to Big Brother, correct me if I'm wrong, you're really giving up your life for the summer to be watched 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the hopes for ultimately having a shot at winning $500,000. So talk to us about what it was that made you want to, give up your privacy, I guess we could say.
Okay, well, Big Brother has been around for 17 years. We're in our 19th season this year, and I've been watching since I was a little girl. I honestly don't even remember how old I was when I started watching. Probably around season 5 or 6 would be my guess. I used to watch it with my dad, and it was our quality time together during the summer. I would sit on the floor in his bedroom, and he would like put on Big Brother, and I would play with the dog, and we would watch Big Brother. And I was always enthralled with the showmances, and we would sit there and we would debate out like what we would do if we were in the house. And it was just kind of our time together, and it meant a lot to me, and I didn't know how much it would mean to me at the time. Unfortunately, my dad passed away 3 years ago, and when I look back at consistent moments that we spent together, Big Brother was definitely a big part of it. And never in a million years did I ever dream about going on Big Brother. I just kind of left it as something that I did with my dad, and it was a good time to spend with him, and that was the extent of it. I never dreamed that I'd had the opportunity to go on the show. So when someone contacted me about it, it was a no questions asked kind of thing. I absolutely want to get involved. And I will tell you that the whole audition process was excruciating. It was not fun. It lasted about 3 months of just like endless paperwork and testing and taking time off work to go meet with casting and producers and executive producers and just
Wow.
everyone and anyone associated with CBS. So it was a very long, excruciating process. I thought about dropping out about a million times, but lucky for me, the CBS casting was just so incredible, and they just grabbed my hand and dragged me through the whole thing and just told me flat out, you're gonna do this. Like, you belong on the show. They loved that I've been watching it since I was a little girl, and that it was quality time with my dad. They loved all of that, and I still can't believe I did it. It was I say it was never a dream of mine because I never thought it would even be a possibility. So it was a surreal experience for me, and I never in a million years thought it was going to be as hard as it was. But the cameras and the no privacy thing never really bothered me too much. I was just, being me. I never for a second put on a show for the cameras. And I think that that's what set me apart from people in the house was they didn't realize that they were cast on a reality TV show and they tried to put on an act. And
Yeah.
casting casts you because of who you are, not because of someone you're pretending to be. So I think that's where a lot of people in the house got derailed.
No, well, I think you hit it as somebody that watched the show and obviously was a big fan of you on the show. I mean, I think that is what really stood out about you is just how organic the process was for you. You mentioned that it was really important to you coming into this to be yourself and kind of stay true to the values, and that's something that we talk about a lot as well, is having a plan going in and really staying true to yourself throughout the process. So did you have a certain style of game that you wanted to play going in? Was there really a plan of attack that you wanted to accomplish, or did you just kind of
Well,
go with the flow?
if we're going to be completely honest here, I actually have a couple of girlfriends that were in beauty pageants, and a couple of them knew that I was going to go on this Big Brother experience, and we kind of discussed strategy because they had watched the show and related it a lot to being in a pageant because in a beauty pageant you're really faking it until you make it, and that was kind of the theme for us discussing strategy was just put on a smile, be nice to everyone, and then just fake it for 3 months and you'll be $500,000 richer. It was kind of the strategy going in. And if you watch my pre-interviews, I said that I was going to be Miss Congeniality, that I didn't want to deal with any drama this season. I wanted to be the life of the party and I wanted to make sure everybody was having fun. And that's definitely a piece of who I am. But the thing is, as soon as I walk through the doors, I do consider myself a very genuine person, and I can't fake it till I make it. I couldn't even fake it for a day. If I don't share myself with just everybody. I like to think, and I think that's why Cody and I got along so well, is because I have
Yeah.
a very small group of friends, and it's definitely quality over quantity for me. So I fell right back into being exactly who I am, and that taught me a lot about myself. I think it's important if your personality is just constantly resetting itself and going back to who you are, you have a pretty strong personality, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And I just think that I would have gotten along a lot better if people in the house had thought that same way. But unfortunately, I was in the minority this season, so.
Yeah, you definitely were. And that's kind of my next, this will be the portion of the interview for those of us that are really engaged with Big Brother and this season in particular. And because I did want to ask Jessica a little bit here because ahead, and that's what I think really stood out to not only myself, but I think the vast majority of America that watched the show, that we all liked and respected about you and Cody and the way you two connected together and the way you guys played the game. Obviously there's a certain level of deception that needs to be incorporated into playing Big Brother. But it seemed like this season, maybe more so than any season that I had watched, there was one person, that being Paul, who really kind of took control, and it seemed like had an alliance with literally everyone in the house except you and Cody. So can you talk to me about the difference between your gameplay, Cody's gameplay, and the rest of the house, and what it was like to experience being in a situation where, from the outside looking in, it seemed that there really was almost 9-on-1 or 9-on-2 or 10-on-2 at several points with a team effort against the two of you.
Well, actually, in the beginning, Paul and I were very close.
Okay.
And it's interesting because you don't get to see that aspect of the show because the first week that we're all in the house, the live feeds are not on. So for everyone that is not familiar with the show, you can go online and watch what's going on in the house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely uncensored. So that first week, in order for the castmates to get used to the concept of being on camera 24/7, Production gives us a week of no cameras 24/7, and it's kind of to make sure that you get used to not saying things that could potentially get you in trouble in front of the camera. And in that time period, Paul and I were actually very, very close, and that actually benefited me a little bit because during his HOH, he made me a promise that he wouldn't put Cody and I on the block next to each other, and he
Mm-hmm.
held true to that promise. But the thing with Paul is that he was a dictatorship this summer. And I said going into the house that I wanted to find a strong male competitor and work with that strong male competitor and kind of clean house. But the problem there was with Paul. Paul wanted people to work for him and not with him. And I am not the type of person to be bossed around and told what to do. Given certain circumstances, of course, that's necessary. It's definitely a give and take, but there was no give with Paul. It was constantly take, take, take. And that ate away at me throughout the season. So I lasted 60 days in the house. And it took a while for me to just be completely done with Paul because I try to give people the benefit of the doubt a lot.
You,
And
just to interrupt you first, that was amazing to me. Actually, you really do. It was watching this. You really do want to see the good in people. It seems.
I try, and Paul's 24 years old, and I think he's very intelligent. And I like having people in my life that constantly challenge me. And Paul's definitely someone who we got along because he was definitely challenging in good ways as well as bad. And it was just my final straw with Paul was him and I were having a really serious conversation. And it was frustrating to me throughout the season because I had seen what his strategy was in the house. It was very clear to me. And I tried discussing it with him. You're playing everyone in the house, everyone loves you, they're so starstruck by you, you've got them all wrapped around your finger, you're playing a great game, and I applaud you for that. And he still played dumb as opposed to like
Yeah.
admitting, like, thanks, I appreciate it. He just continuously played dumb, like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm in the worst position in this house. And it was kind of a slap across the face to my intelligence.
Okay.
And then when he told me, sit back, watch, and don't ask questions, that's when I lost it. I am an individual who is perfectly capable of thinking for herself, and I'm playing a competitive game right now to win $500,000. And if you think that I'm just going to be guided mindlessly through this game, then you have not gotten to know me for the past 60 days because that's not who I am, and that's not something I'm going to pretend to be in order to gain a $500,000.
Well, and in fairness too, for those that did relentlessly watch the show this season, from a fan's perspective, really, even though I have to, as much as I love Cody, and I'm a big fan of Cody as well, you're definitely the better game player, I think, and I think you two talked about that a lot. But um, if it wasn't for the protection that Paul received, Cody did attempt to oust Paul week one, right? And so how differently do you think the game would have been had that been successful and had Paul not had that protection for 3 weeks?
So, for anyone who isn't aware, Cody is my boyfriend. Him and I met on the show, and we became alliance members, and we started dating throughout the process of being on the show. We were completely isolated from the rest of the house in the sense that it was literally two of us against 15 other people, which was very, very, very hard at times. And we did discuss, Cody not having the best gameplay. But now that I watch everything back and I've had 4 weeks to kind of study everything that's gone on in the house, learn about things that I didn't know were going on while I was in the house. And to be honest, I don't think that I had the best gameplay and I don't think Cody had the worst gameplay. I think that both of us had a very good chance of going further with our gameplay if it wasn't for Paul. Like, Cody
Yeah.
wasn't wrong to nominate Paul because I do believe that if production didn't give Paul 3 weeks of safety, it would have been we would have been able to swing the votes to have people see this is a veteran, he knows this game, and we need to get him out. I think
Well,
there's a very strong possibility that that would have happened.
and that's and to take it back to our our broader sense of what we focus on here with the Real Estate Network. It's funny, guys, because it's really amazing how one slight difference can completely change the course of history. Now, personally, and we'll talk about here next about some of the things that Jessica and her boyfriend Cody went through on the show in more detail. But I agree 100% of just watching the show. That one instance, if he doesn't have that protection, he's out of the house. I think it's a completely different game, and quite frankly, I think you and Cody probably would have steamrolled the way that Paul is steamrolling now, because you've got people in that house that are kind of more weak-minded people, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And that's what makes Paul the evil genius that he was. You know, I told Paul right before I left the house, I said, you know, a part of me thinks you're an idiot for getting rid of me before jury, because I would 100% vote for you. I am a guaranteed vote for you in jury if you are final two. But also, you're very smart for taking me out this week, because if I get the chance to take you out, I'm doing it. So
yeah.
it's just a matter of Cody made a very gutsy move. And it was going against the grain. It definitely was not the easy decision. It 100% was not the easy one. He had the potential to pull it off, and it would have been epic, and it would have changed everything had it happened. Unfortunately, production got involved and made a twist that kept Paul safe. So, you know, he's labeled as this like awful game player, but like from a viewer's standpoint, you know what's going on. You're biased because you have all of the information. If Cody knew that Paul had 3 weeks of safety, he wouldn't have nominated him. He wouldn't have shown his card that early. But he wanted to do the Maverick thing, and I don't think that it was dumb by any means. I think that it was very brave, and he wanted to take out the big target sooner rather than later. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually respect him for it.
I agree, and actually that was one of the moments when I really became a fan of him, is having the guts to really do that. And honestly, everything that he thought has ultimately proven to be correct. So he really, so yeah, I mean, Paul, and that's kind of a nice segue into what I want to talk about next, because you two, you and Cody, and your relationship really became the highlights in my mind of this season. Um, and really the commitment that you guys had to each other, and you know that was what initially drew me to become a fan of you two as well. There was a point when, because Cody did take that shot at Paul early on and attempted to oust him from the game and wasn't able to because of what production did. Paul at that point had, I think he still mentions Cody's name every 35 minutes if I watch the live feeds. So there was an attack on him. And in turn, there was also an attack on you because of your relationship. And there was a point when you had a power known as the hex to be able to protect you and Cody and give yourself safety for that week. And you were relentlessly and calculatedly attacked by the other House members, led by Paul, to try to get you not to use that power to protect you and Cody. And that was honestly, for myself, as I told you off air, I've always been a huge fan of the show, but I never watched the live feeds until you two. And watching your relationship and watching the loyalty that you had for Cody in that situation, because you were in a power position, was really inspiring to me. And I'll never forget watching in the yard that day when there was a calculated attack led with, I believe it was 9 other people to bully and harass you and Cody in an attempt to, I guess, get Cody to snap and to yell, because they thought that would make you distance yourself from him. And talk to me about what that moment was like, how you were able to keep your composure, and honestly, how you were able to stay true to your alliance with Cody in a game sense and in a personal sense.
That day was really hard. Paul was trying very hard to separate Cody and I, not just in the game, but using things to try and break us up in reality. And that's where his gameplay got really dirty for me, and I lost a lot of respect for him. Was he spent a whole day, you know, just trying to say and do whatever he could to break Cody and I up. And when I had all 9 people attacking me and screaming at me, I told Cody to kind of like let me handle it. And Cody and I are very protective of one another. Like if someone gets in his face, I'm going to be right there with him. And if someone gets in my face, it's the same thing, vice versa. So we're very protective of each other, but we're also both very capable individuals. So like I know that he's perfectly capable of handling himself, and again, the same. So I was being attacked by all 9 people, and I was calling everybody out. Like people were calling me the worst things possible, saying the worst things possible to me. So I was like, okay, one by one, line up, let's go. And Paul started it out, and he said a lot of stupid things that was just like trying to. He was basically saying that in week 1, Cody was already planning how to get me out of the house because he wasn't going to be able to do it. And it was just a lot. Like these people tearing us apart actually just made Cody and I want to stay together even more. And because they don't have that quality in themselves, I don't think that they expected to see it within us. And every time that Cody and I were trying, people were trying to tear us apart, it just made us so much closer and see each other for the, we have a lot of the same qualities. Loyalty and honesty and respect are very, very high up on our morals. And if I have someone in my life that I care about, then I will fight to the death for them. And a lot of my girlfriends know that about me. We were actually having a conversation about it 2 nights ago. You know, this isn't just a quality that I have for my boyfriend. It's for anybody in my life that is there for me and that I care about. And going through that experience, it was really emotional at times for Cody. It was really emotional at times for me. And when I was down in the dumps, he was the strong one. And when he was down in the dumps, I carried him. And I don't know what I would have done without him throughout this experience, because a lot of people in that house really sucked. But
Yeah.
you have to stand up for yourself. You know, it doesn't matter how many people are screaming in your face, especially when you know you're right. There were a lot of lies being told, and just because people are screaming the loudest doesn't mean that they're the ones telling the truth.
Well, and like you said, I mean, it's different for us too, like watching that, because we see everything like we saw, and that was when I first actually sent you an email, because we're watching this. We see that it's a premeditated attack on the two of you, and we see the planning involved behind it with Paul, and you guys don't. And honestly, for me, and I know millions like me as viewers that watch that happen. It was both. At first, it was sickening, to be honest with you, that people would go to that level of attack, and especially in for Cody. For those that don't know, Cody was a well-decorated Marine and served our country overseas in combat. So to attack someone like that and to attack you personally, literally with the intent to try to get a reaction out of Cody that's going to be violent or upset, to try to distort, and as you mentioned, to really make it personal. That part was sick, but on the other side of it, it was really inspiring how America responded to it. It actually, for me personally, it kind of it made me disgusted with human beings that those people were doing that to the two of you. But it also inspired my faith in the country, that so many people reached out to you or reached out to CBS, tweeted there was a campaign to stop this, and ultimately I think production did step in and put a stop to it. And then obviously for you too, especially you, because the restraint Cody showed was amazing, but for you to be able to withstand those attacks and not only not succumb to it and really, get violent or get crazy like they were trying to make happen, but actually get stronger. It takes some pretty impressive willpower. I gotta
Well,
say.
I
Yeah.
mean, I told Cody this all the time. Every time I had a confrontation with somebody in the house, every time I competed, it's funny to me because I look like I've got it under control, but my entire body was literally shaking throughout all of it. Everything we went through and me confronting people was not something that came easily. I was constantly, I couldn't eat. Cody was really worried about me because I lost a lot of weight on the show. I couldn't eat because my stomach was always so upset that you could actually hear it. And it wasn't hunger pains that my stomach was making noises for. I was just so stressed out. My body was reacting so negatively to the environment that I was in. I couldn't sleep. Most nights Cody'd fall asleep and I would just like stare at the ceiling. And then I'd end up having to try and take like little naps throughout the day. Eating just like maybe a meal a day. He started cooking at the end of the season because I couldn't function properly. I was just in an environment that was so hostile that even when I got out of the house, I was in really bad shape. People don't know this, but I was in the doctors a lot after I got out of the house because my blood pressure was so high that I was actually in danger of having a stroke. So I had to come off all the medications that I was on and I just had to rest. And it was a really, really tough experience. And people don't think, oh, she's being yelled at. Like, how is that affecting her? This went on for 60 days, day and night. People just whispering about you and talking negatively about you. And every single security blanket that I had in the house was taken away from me. There was a week where, you know, someone punished us with a temptation and we were forced to wear frog outfits and hop around all week. And that might have been funny, especially because the way that they portray it on TV seems comical, but what they don't show in the episodes is that they actually gave us dog bowls to eat out of that week. So we were eating slop that week out of dog bowls off the floor. And while I'm eating food off of the floor, I'm surrounded by these human beings that can't stand me and are laughing at me and making fun of me. And it's just not an environment that was good for me. And so every time I stood up for someone, it wasn't easy. It was the exact opposite. It would have been a lot easier to keep my mouth shut and just like not defend myself and just like let them go away. But I had to defend myself because that's who I am. And I couldn't allow people to think that what they were doing was okay. So I was terrified a lot of the time. It was not a comfortable experience, but I wouldn't have done it any other way. I'm glad that I defended myself, and I think looking back, if I hadn't, I would have been very ashamed of myself.
No, having been through what you went through, and I'm a little taken back about it too, just recapturing, because for those of you that don't know, guys, and I highly recommend that all of you that haven't watched this season go to CBS.com, watch the episodes, and really see what we're talking about, because Jessica isn't in any way exaggerating. I mean, you could feel the tension even just watching the live feeds every time that that herself or Cody would walk through a room. It was all the cameras would go to them to see if someone was going to attack them at that point. And to live that way, to have that ever happen to you is horrible and should never happen to anyone. But to live that way 24/7 for 2 months with all the other pressure of being on TV, that's why I mean, more than anything else, that's why I really wanted to have Jessica on with us, because to withstand that, you have to be a pretty amazing person. So on a positive note, I think that it is ultimately to your benefit that all this happened away, and because you did play the way that you played, Jessica, and because you did stay true to your values, because you did, you know, if I can say, honor, you know, the legacy that you had with your father that led you to organically want to do this in the first place. I think America really seems like really connected with that, really responded to that. I know I followed a different interview you did. I think you on the social media side, which is another thing we're big with here. I think you went from what, 15,000 Instagram followers to 200,000. Is that right?
I hit 15,000 like the day before I went in the house, and I thought that was really cool. Being a millennial, I thought having 15,000 followers on Instagram was awesome. And then when I got out of the house, I was around 80, and in the last 4 weeks, now I'm up to 208.
Wow,
So.
that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, and really, and that's why I've been excited as a fan, and I know there's millions of people like me that they might have prevented you or Cody from getting the $500,000, but I think in the end, I think your perseverance, I think, will have much greater results than if you would have won the show. Talk to me a little bit about, I mean, you've had a lot of cool experiences. You just did Bold and the Beautiful the other day. Um, you've been doing interviews with sappy idiots like me all over the place. Talk to me. What, what have been some of the cool things you've gotten to do in the last few weeks here, and how have you used your newfound fame and growth with social media to really enjoy yourself? I guess.
Um, it's very bittersweet having all of this because I really wanted to come out of the house and experience it all with Cody.
Yeah.
I wanted to share with him how cool all of the reactions were with him. So it sucks that he's not out here with me experiencing it. He will be in 2 weeks, luckily. But it's also great because if Cody was out of the house and I was in the house, he wouldn't be able to set things up like I have.
That's probably true.
But like he would have just like gone home and just like stayed home and not really done anything with it. So I think he'll be appreciative when he gets out of the house and he sees that like I've kind of set things up for us pretty well. Bold and the Beautiful was such an incredible experience. The cast was so incredibly professional and taught me so much, and they were so welcoming and silly and just fun people. Again, being in front of a camera is something that doesn't really bother me. I just kind of do what I do and hope that it works. And so I got a lot of very positive feedback from the director as well as the head, like the camera operators. I'm sorry, I don't know what that's called. But they actually, I might have a reoccurring spot, which is really cool. I was absolutely freaking out when they told me that they want me to come back for Bold and the Beautiful. I think Cody might have a guest spot there as
Oh,
well.
really? Well, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Yeah, yep. And so that was happening. And when I first got the email for the Bold and the Beautiful, it was the most unprofessional response I've ever sent in my entire life. I'm pretty sure there was like an OMG, some emojis, yes, of course I'll do it, exclamation points, more emojis, like LOL. I blacked out. I was so excited. So the Bold and the Beautiful has definitely been the coolest thing that has come from all of this. And I actually really do enjoy it, and I kind of want to get into broadcasting. So I'm hoping that some doors open in that whole aspect of life. We'll see.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, you've definitely represented yourself well. And as I jokingly said the other day, I'm not a huge soap opera guy, but I'm going to watch now, especially if Cody's going to be on there too. I got to watch that. I got to see what they do with that. Big Brother takes place, which is September 20th here. I think that more and more people are going to be inspired by what you went through and how you handled it, because there was a mission in place to try to get you both to crack, and you could have cracked. I mean, that was the plan, and if you would have, and then your life could have been really negatively impacted by that. But because you handled it positively, I think it's really going to resonate with a lot of people. I mean, you just mentioned that acting and broadcasting could be in your future. Are there any other things that you want to do moving forward that you haven't yet gotten a chance to do, to maybe, inspire some more people like you already have?
I actually really, I'm waiting for Cody to get out of the house because I'm hoping he can give me some guidance in this. But I really want to work with retired vets.
Yeah.
Just meeting. I don't have a lot of friends that are in the service. I'm going to be completely honest. I've never been exposed to, the military lifestyle or anything like that. And now that my boyfriend is a Marine and I see how he is and how strong he is and everything that he's done for all of our freedom, it's incredible, and I really want to give back. So I really want to do something to help vets, because I think that if anybody deserves it, it's them. And I gave the entire house, actually, with the exception of Mark. No, Mark was in the room. With the exception of Cody. Cody was downstairs and everybody else was in the HOH room. And I gave them a lecture because I said to them, they were all talking about how weird, quote unquote, weird Cody was, and that he's a sociopath and all this weird, unwarranted crap.
Yeah.
And I said, this person has served our country for 10 years. the reason we're capable of having a television show like the one that we're currently on is because of men and women like him. And to say that he's acting weird and anyone who has PTSD should be shunned or have doors shut in their face is disgusting behavior, and nothing like that should happen. If anything, people who come back from war or have served our country in any way, shape, or form should be embraced and welcomed and nurtured and cared for, instead of being like, oh my God, you're weird, ew,
Yeah.
get away from me, which is exactly the response that they have been exhibiting this entire season, even until now. They're constantly saying he has PTSD and that he's a weirdo. First of all, Cody does not have PTSD, and second of all, he's not a weirdo. Um, but let's say that they came across someone who did have PTSD and was there exhibiting weird behavior. Someone who is fighting for our country and our freedom should be shunned and ignored because they're suffering from something that they went through overseas, or whatever the circumstances. It just, that logic baffles me.
It's bizarre.
And I don't agree with it. And if that's the general consensus of behavior, then I would love to make steps to change that.
Have PTSD. I will say, if you watch the live feeds, Cody actually has a pretty good sense of humor. I'm just saying. They didn't present it that way on the show. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fun. He's so funny because he doesn't try to be funny and he doesn't know he's being funny. He just literally says everything that everyone is thinking, but he doesn't filter it. And I love him for that. He's just being completely honest and completely genuine to who he is. And people fell in love with that about him. I fell in love with that about him. So he's actually hysterical.
Yeah, well, yeah, he had me laughing a few. Well, and I have to, I'll ask this question that you get asked like probably every 37 minutes, but so, and I already know the answer, but for those that don't know, you and Cody are still obviously planning to be together outside of the house, and it sounds like this is really going to be a long-term relationship for the two of you.
If I have anything to say about it.
Okay, good. I wanted to be the one interview that didn't ask that question, but I had to throw it in at the end here. But well, Jessica, thank you very, very much for doing this. Has been a lot of fun, and I do want to say too, there is, and Jessica didn't ask me to do this, but this is something that I want to do, guys. That is really important to me. That Jessica can tell us maybe a little bit more about here as well. There is a vote that happens at the end of every season of Big Brother for America's favorite player, a favorite house guest. And I think more so than any season I've watched of the show, guys, this is extremely important that we support Jessica, what she went through. We want to support Cody too, but honestly, what Jessica had to deal with as a strong woman being in that situation, who actually was in the power position and being able to take the abuse that she took, and a lot of things we learned today that we maybe didn't even know about. I want to encourage everybody that's on this webinar right now to go and vote at cbs.com for Jessica for AFP, and if we could be a small part of getting her the honor that she deserves there, I think that would be pretty fantastic. Jessica, do you have any extra insight on the voting process or anything that people should know?
Um, Traditionally, the polls open a week before finale. I
Okay.
have a feeling that they will be opening Thursday, September 14th, would be my guess. And then finale night is Wednesday, September 20th. So it's a week of, it's 6 days of voting essentially, and each account on CBS.com gets 10 votes per day. I would love it if you guys took time out to vote for me. And there has never been anyone who has won America's favorite player that has been evicted before pre-jury. So I would be making Big Brother history, which would be extremely cool. So
I agree. Well, good deal. Well, Jessica, thanks again. Awesome getting to talk with you a little bit here, and really appreciate you taking the time.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.